Hey everyone, this is Joseph over at Synergy 17, and today I'm going to go over the entire process from setup to making the final product of a shirt. I'll do both. I'll do a mixed media of both rhinestone and I'll do a Glitter Flex Ultra design. Something really simple, just so you can see the overall process. So just a little bit about the company and why I sell what I sell. Why do I sell the GCCs? Why do I use OOBling? Why do I use Hottronics Press? Sometimes in the groups it might sound quite biased because I say, oh, well, I use this and I use this. And people think, well, that's because I sell them. The truth is that they're great products. I sell them because I use them and they work for me. And that's pretty much it. I had a Roland GX24. And it's a great cutter too. It's just higher end and more pricey, but it didn't do anything more for me that I needed. So over time, I tested different cutters and different software, and I finally picked ones that worked for me. And when I did that, I approached these companies and asked if I could be a distributor for them. And that's kind of how it took off. So what I want to show you is right now this Expert 24 is not hooked up, and this is just the basic lower level cutter from GCC, kind of like I'd say your little entry level, but more than a hobbyist, more powerful and quicker than your Silhouette, your Cameos, but a good cutter to get started with. So I'm going to show you what I do to get everything started. So I'll go ahead and start here. At the same time, I'm going to record my screen so people can see what's going on with the screen capture as well when I plug everything in. The only thing I actually ran ahead of time was power and the USB cable. So all you really need to do is plug in your power, plug in the USB, and when you power it on, Windows, which I'll show you on the other screen, will detect it as a device, and when that happens, it loads up a basic driver, not the GCC driver, but just a basic device driver. And it all kind of happens pretty instant. So what this actually did right now was when it started up, it went through and it saw that there was a pinch roller here and here. It didn't detect this one. I had this one pushed all the way over to the edge. So I've not loaded my material. All I really care about right now is getting my software set up, and that's what I really want to do. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the PC now, and we'll get the software installed. So I plugged in the GCC cutter, and Windows recognized it as a device. It still doesn't have a driver. It doesn't have anything loaded. I'm not even going to use it. Comes with Great Cut CD, but just to show you this example from start to finish, I'm not even going to use the GCC Great Cut software. I'm not going to install the driver. I'm going to go straight to OOBling. So I'm going to go ahead and double-click my setup here. And since I have different versions of OOBling, I have OOBling 8 installed and some other ones. So it's asking me to make sure I have my USB dongle plugged in, which I do. I'm going to install SignLab OOBling Pro. I accept the agreement. It asks me where I want to install it. I'm going to call it Pro 9 because that's what version this is. But you don't have to. You can leave the defaults. It's because I have version 8 installed. I'm going to do a full install and let it install. So what this is doing now is it's going to install the files, and there's an extra CD that comes with OOBling which has a bunch of fonts and a bunch of clip art. It's not Rhinestone fonts and it's not Rhinestone clip art. It's just basic clip art and basic fonts. So you can, when it comes down to the point, it'll ask you if you want to install it. You can install them if you want all that extras. And there's some pretty cool stuff there. You can use that for help you with your designs or some of the fonts you might like. So we'll get to that point in a few seconds or a few minutes. And then after this is installed, we'll get the cutter set up on the right port and everything, and then we'll switch back over to the cutter, and we'll pull up a design, and we'll send it over to the cutter and get everything cut. And we'll switch back over to that camera angle. So this is just a little over halfway done. think this whole setup probably takes maybe, I'm gonna guess 15, maybe not even 15 minutes. The setup itself doesn't take that long, but for us to start from the very beginning to the final shirt, maybe a half hour. I'm just taking a guess though, maybe a little sooner. So I'm hoping this video isn't too long, too boring to watch. Okay, so now let's get everything ready. It should be asking us if we want to install a few things in a few seconds. And also, this PC I'm installing on is probably about 6 years old, so any of the newer PCs are going to be much faster than what I have here. Okay, it's all finished now, so it's asking me if I want to install my cutting device right now, and I can install the device. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes, or I can do it later. I'm going to say next, and it's going to launch a little wizard that says, well, what kind of cutter do I have? So it's loading up the different types of cutters. So if you don't have a cutter at this moment, you could have said skip, but since we're doing this all at once, we'll go ahead and do this. So I'm going to come down here and choose GCC, and it's the Expert 24. So this is what makes us not have to make us install the Great Cut CD, is because OOBling has built-in drivers for plenty of cutters. There's, you know, Black Cats and GCCs and Graphtechs and lots of different cutters. And if I went to Graphtech here, you'd see all the different models here. But we're going to do the GCC Expert 24. Say next. And it says, you know, welcome to the font installation. We're going to go ahead and continue to install that. And what first thing it does is look through all my C Windows font folder and installs a bunch of fonts from there. And then the next thing it's going to ask me is, it says, hey, I installed these fonts. Now it says I'm going to search your whole computer, and I'm just going to say okay, but I'm going to hit escape because I don't want it to search my whole computer and find all the fonts I have. And then right here it says you can install the clip art CD. And this is where I was saying if you had the CD, you can pop it in there and go and install that stuff. But I can always do that later. I don't need it now. So I'm going to hit cancel. And it says, okay, we're all done. And so we're finished with that. So now that this is done, that was the complete installation for OOBling. And then you should have a little menu here for OOBling in here. And I'm just going to double check to see what mine says here. So there it is. There's my link. So programs, OOBling. The next thing we want to do is select the port and get everything set up. So this is the first time launching it. And I have another video that talks about setting up your toolbar here with the most common tools that you use. That's in another video. But let's go ahead and get the plotting defaults. So I have the Expert 24. I click on Setup, and then Port, and it's usually the very, very last one. It's GCC USB right here, or it could be USB Plus. It could have a weird name, but it's usually this bottom one. I'm going to say OK. I'm going to OK that. I'm going to apply that and close it. So let's go ahead and do a quick design. I'll do something really simple. Let's take a heart, and that heart's about 8 inches, so I'm going to make it small because I'm going to put on a little tiny shirt. So let's say 5 inches. Actually, maybe even a little bit smaller than that because I'm going to put stones around it. Let's say 4.5 inches. Okay, so this is going to be my vinyl, and then I'm going to put stones around it. So I'm going to transform. I'm going to do an outline, and let's go just a little bit bigger. Say close. Okay, and now the blue layer, this layer right here, we're going to put stones right there. So I'm going to go to Rhinestone Fill. I'm going to select the outline and choose the stones that I use.
It doesn't matter which color because this is just going to make a template. I'm going to add that one, and I'm going to put my spacing up a little bit because I don't want a whole bunch around it. I just want something simple like that. Close that. I'm going to do shift on this blue layer because I don't need it anymore. And so that's basically what I'm going to have for my first design ever, is this right here. It's going to be vinyl, glitter vinyl with stones around it. So now I'm going to go ahead and switch back over to the other camera so you can see me load the vinyl and the template material, and we're going to cut this. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pause this.
Okay, now that the software's set up, we're going to load a piece of material on here, the glitter flicks, and we're going to give it a cut. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the material and load it in here. And what I could do is take this offline and move this out of the way so I can see what I'm doing. And what I really want to do is I want to get these under these pinch rollers here. So I can move this guy over here. This center one I can move over just to add support. And then this guy I can add here. So I lock those down. And I could press origin right here, and that'll set the origin there, even though that's not correct. I really want it to start over here. So to reset it, I can either turn it off and on, or if I just hit origin, take it offline, or back online, then hit origin, and it'll go and remeasure the material. And if you watch, it'll go through, and I'll hit the wall, and then it'll come back, and it'll pinpoint this one, and then find the other part. And that's how it knows the width of the material. So everything's ready to go. On this end, we'll go back to the computer and we'll send the job. So we'll go ahead and do this right now.
Okay, so now that the cutter's set up and vinyl is loaded, what we're going to do is we're going to cut the vinyl out, the vinyl portion, which is the black heart. So what I want to do is I want to go up here to cut. And the first thing I like to do is this shows me that it's a 24-inch cutter, but I know that's not how much material we have. We only have a small piece in there. So what I'm going to do is I hit this button here. It says pull the plotter, and it tells me how much space we have. Okay, and it shows me I only have 6.67 inches. So the heart does fit in there, which is perfectly fine. And then on most vinyl, you have to mirror your design. The heart is symmetrical, so I probably don't have to, but I'll go ahead and mirror it anyways. And I can mirror it right here, or I can mirror it back when we're in the design area. And the next thing I want to do, and this is like a one-time setup, is you go to this tool here and you add the material. For example, every material has its own pressure setting and speed and things like that. So what we want to do is I'm going to say add new material. This is for Glitter Flex Plus. And I'm going to set this to right around 60 for me. Velocity is 40. That's how fast I want it to cut. And I'm going to say OK. This is where I could add new material like sticky flock, and I'll go ahead and do that for the next portion. So I'll say OK, and then I have my list right here of what I can choose. And so we'll go ahead and send that to the cutter, and I'll switch back to the camera view. So I'll turn the camera back on, and go ahead and record the cutter doing its thing.
So I'll go ahead and send the job there now. Okay, so let's go over there and I'll close this and we'll see what happens. Okay. Take some scissors and I'll just cut this off. Get my weeding tool. And I'll weed this away here. Use two hands for this. course, it's easier to do this on a table than in the air, but so the heart is all finished. We'll go ahead and throw this away, and we'll go ahead and cut the template out next. So I'll load the material in there, so we'll go ahead and do this. Okay, now what we want to do, now that we've made the heart, is load up the template material, the sticky flock material. So what we're going to do is grab some sticky flock, or whatever template material that you use, and we're going to load it in here. Move my pinch rollers, lock them down, lock this guy down, and this is the middle one's just for a little support. And if I'm happy with where everything's at, we're going to go ahead and hit origin, and it's going to reread the material. Okay. And another thing I want to do is I'm going to take it offline. I'm going to bring it in a little bit. I'm going to set my origin right there. Bring it back online. And I think we're ready to go. So I'm going to pause this and switch back over to the PC. Okay, now that we're ready to, now that we have our rhinestone template material installed in the cutter, we need to actually send the job to the cutter and cut it out. So now I'll be cutting this orange piece right here, which is our template. What we want to do is, before we send it to the cutter, we have a couple options. We can actually make our own weed box here if we want, or we can let OOBling do it. It's for us because it has a weed box feature in it. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to select that, hit cut. First thing I like to do is pull the plotter and see how wide it is. And it tells me it's 14 inches wide, just about. Here's the button right here, and you click that and it adds a weed box for us. The next thing we need to do is set up the material. So we'll add a new material. This happens to be sticky flock, so we'll put sticky flock, and we'll crank this up to about 150 is a good setting, I think, for me. The velocity we'll leave at 30. An overcut is an option that I like about, and that what it means is the blade starts at a point and goes around, and when it goes around, it stops right before it. And if you don't cut through that, sometimes you get these little hanging chads. So what we're going to do is I'm going to set that to about 30 centimeters, okay, per 1,000. So we're going to leave that, all those settings correct for us. We're going to hit OK. We're ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the camera back on, and we'll go ahead and start recording. And I'm going to hit, I'm going to send this to the cutter, and then we'll watch it cut, and then we'll move on to the next step. So at this point, we hope that my settings were correct. What I'm going to do here is take it offline, feed it down, and we'll be able to bend it right here, and we can see where our material is. So I just want to see how far up it goes, and it goes to right here. So at this point, I could cut this off completely. So we'll go ahead and do that. And let's see if I chose some right parameters or not. We'll just grab the edge and pull it off. And I stripped it off kind of fast, and you can see that some of it's stuck. and some of it didn't. So with the rest of this, what I could do is I could put on a hard surface and pull the rest of these holes out. But just since we're doing this quick, I'm going to go ahead and pull them out this way. But what I would usually do is use a piece of plastic or a mirror or a piece of slate. So, but this way is pretty fast too, depending on how many you have. So let me scrape this off. I just have a few here. And a couple more here. So, and looks like I missed one right here. So anyways, here's our template, all ready to go for the next portion. So what we're going to do now is we'll take this and we'll brush stones in, we'll create the transfer, and then we'll get the heat press going and heat press our design. Okay, now we're on the section where we're actually going to make a rhinestone transfer. And here's what you really need. You need your workstation, you need your template, you need your brush, and you need some stones. And I think I have everything here. Some extra tools that I like to use, tweezers and a scooper, and then you're going to need some transfer tape. And transfer tape comes in a couple of different kinds. The acrylic, or what we call economy, is a little bit thinner, cheaper, half the price of silicone. The silicone's a little bit stiffer. I like to use it better, but for this example I'm just going to use acrylic since I have some here. So I'm going to kind of be in the way when I do this. But we'll take the transfer that we made earlier, which was the heart, and we'll lay it down on our workstation here. So take some stones, and the key is really to flood your template with some stones. And then what I like to do is, I don't know if you can see this, I'm just going to brush them in. I like to go in a little circular motion. Just kind of pat them in there a little bit. Not pat them, but pat them in there. And then when they're all good, we can brush out everything we don't need. Brush away all the ones we don't need anymore. This one right there. I know it's kind of hard to see with my arm in the way. And of course, if I was doing more, I just keep on. I leave all these stones here, but since we're not doing any more, I'm going to brush them all aside. And that's kind of where my scooper comes in, to scoop them and put them away. I already cut my piece of transfer tape, so we're going to peel this off. We're going to lay this down here and we can let it fall. And some people like to use their brush over it, some people use a squeegee, some people just use their hand and go over, you know, all the stones to make sure they're all in there. And pick them all up, and that's how you make your transfer. So I'll use this later on, so I'll go ahead and stick it back down to that. And then we'll go over and make the shirt. Alright, the last part of the process, or the entire process, is to actually heat press your garment. So I just took a piece of cotton that I cut off, not even a shirt, just a piece of cotton, piece of cloth. And I'm going to press this for 5 seconds here, just to get the moisture out and flatten it out. So we have this here. Now, since this is a multi-decoration, multi-piece type thing, it's both glitter and stones. I'm going to press my glitter first. And like I said, just because it's a piece of material, I'm not going to, doesn't matter really where I put it, I'm just going to put it right here, kind of in the center. and it's up to you. Some people like to use Teflon cover sheets, some people don't. I actually already have a cover here that's going to protect my platen, but I'm going to put this one over here just to actually hold the material down so it doesn't suction up. And as soon as this is done, this is supposed to be pressed for about 15 seconds, 15 to 20, or maybe 15 to 18 seconds. I'm going to go ahead and stop it early. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my setting over to do rhinestone, since the temperature I use is a little bit hotter. So the second part is to put the stones over it. And we'll go ahead and lay that down just like that. And what I like to do on this part is, instead of just using the Teflon sheet, so I use the silicone cover pad. And what this does is, for this example, it's not that big of a deal because the stones are all the same height. But in general, sometimes you might have different size stones. So what this does is it helps contour the stones. That way you get a nice even pressure and press with it. So I went ahead and throw that on there. And I'm going to wait for it to warm up a little bit. Should be fine. And cover it one more time. And I need my temperature. It's only at 340, and I usually go up to 365 for 30 seconds, but I'm going to go ahead and cut it short right now at 345. Let's go ahead and press this down. And after I press it, what I like to do is I peel off the transfer tape, and then I cover it once more for another 10 seconds or so. So down to 3, 2, 1. And usually the silicone pad's pretty hot, so I'm going to be careful. So some people let it cool, and that's because they want the glue on the back, you know, on the inside to actually cool off, so it's so the stones don't come off. But it should be fine. And like I said, I like to cover mine one more time. That's just personal preference for me, and for another 10 seconds or so. So anyways, here's our final product after all that work. And it's not too hard, but like I was saying, why people ask me why I use what I use, the GCC cutters and the OOBling software and the Hotronix heat presses, is if you look at how much time we spent, it really wasn't that hard. There wasn't any exporting of a SVG or EPS to another software. There wasn't. It wasn't that hard to get the software loaded. You just installed the software, plugged in the cutter, chose the driver that we needed, did our design and sent it to the cutter, cut the vinyl, cut the template material, brushed the stones in, and heat pressed it. So overall, it wasn't that difficult. But like I said, I hear a lot of people who have a certain cutter or don't have the right blade or the right blade height or the right pressure and all these other things. And once you get everything dialed down and kind of learn this process, it's not too difficult. So anyways, I hope this whole overall process helped you out to understand how everything works. If you have any questions, let me know.